He was the weakest F-rank adventurer with the most useless skill, until he summoned an SS rank level 9999 goddess, making him the strongest. Light, a cheerful teenager dreaming of becoming a successful adventurer to give his family a life of luxury, leaves his small village for the city to register as an adventurer. Life isn't easy though. In this world, humans rank lowest among the 9 races created by the goddess, leaving them vulnerable to discrimination. Light experiences this firsthand when a beastman adventurer rudely orders him off the road, and he can only apologize despite not actually blocking the way. Upon reaching the guild, he registers as an adventurer, and the receptionist informs him that newcomers start at F rank. She asks if he has a gift that could influence his assessment, and Light eagerly confirms, explaining that his gift, called Unlimited Gacha, lets him pull items out of thin air. To demonstrate, he activates his gacha device, which rolls a fork card, materializing a bent fork on the table. Panicking, Light reassures the receptionist that it usually works better and tries a few more times, only producing a rotten apple and moldy bread, convincing her that he deserves nothing more than F rank. Light happily accepts the rank and immediately asks about available jobs. She directs him to the bulletin board listing simple tasks, but Light grows nervous just at the sight of it. The receptionist notices that Light is not only a loser but also illiterate, though the latter doesn't surprise her given humans' low literacy rates. She explains that he can handle basic tasks like carrying rocks and gathering wood, but those jobs pay far less than others. Light accepts the work, and after a full day he earns enough to rent a room. He still depends on his gacha skill for food, yet feels confident he can manage. However, a gang of beastmen has a different plan, deliberately blocking his path so he collides with them. Their leader immediately yells at Light for dirtying his clothes and tries to take his purse. Panicking, Light begs for the money back, warning he'll have nowhere to stay, but the wolfman punches him aside, insisting he pay for his laundry. Left in a mud puddle, Light hears passersby mockingly telling him to sleep in the filthy slums with other humans, leaving him hopeless. Suddenly, a hand reaches out to him, and instinctively he takes the hand of a pretty elf, but then realizes his own is covered in mud. Embarrassed, he apologizes, yet she reassures him it's fine and promises not to hurt him. Years of discrimination make it hard for him to believe her, but to prove her sincerity, the elf kneels and hugs him, leaving Light speechless. Despite the onlookers mocking her for stooping so low for a human, she helps him back to his feet. Behind the elf stands a mixed group who introduce themselves as the Conqueror of Tribes, a party formed with one member from each race created by the goddess, though they lacked a human until now. Garou the Beastman introduces himself first, followed by Sasha the elf who names the others. Drago the Dragonute, Diablo the Demon, Ambaro the Oni, a dark elf, Nano the Dwarf, and Santer the Centaur. Garou explains they were searching for a human to complete their team, and Cheyenne adds that their goal is to end racism and build a world of equality. Light doubts their story but is drawn in and gladly joins. On their adventures, he proves the weakest, often saved by Drago and Sasha, who warn him to be more careful since even one hit could kill him. While Sasha fusses over his injuries, the others tease her for being secretly attached to him, leaving her blushing as she insists he's just a teammate. Light feels useless carrying only the luggage until Drago praises his delicious tea, which makes him beam with pride as he follows them deeper into the dungeon. Soon they reach a chamber with only one entrance and exit, and the party silently agrees it is the perfect place for their plan. Unaware of the plan, Light begins making tea when Drago suddenly tells him he's fired from the party. Shocked, Light asks what he did to deserve it, and Garou bluntly replies that he's useless. The others join in, calling him stupid and worthless, even Sasha showing open disgust. The party then hurls insults not just at him, but at the entire human race. Light thinks it's a cruel prank, but they tell him no one would waste time on trash like him. When he asks why they acted nice before, they admit it was just a facade. Drago explains that their superiors noticed his unlimited gacha gift and thought he might be a maestro, so the Conqueror of Tribes was ordered to keep watch. But once they realized his gift was worthless, they were told to dispose of him. Sasha is the most relieved, admitting that if he had been a true maestro, she would have been forced to marry him, a thought she finds revolting. Light doesn't even understand what maestro means, but Drago cuts him off, saying they've explained enough and must finish him before more adventurers arrive. Garou then unsheathes his metal claws like Wolverine and slashes Light's face. Only then does Light realize the danger is real and escape is impossible. He runs for his life while the racist bastards jeer that they won't let him get away. Sasha's arrow pierces his leg, Light falls screaming onto the ground, and the elves sneer that human screams are like music to them. Garou begins to make him scream even more, assaulting him until Drago orders him to stop, insisting they must make it look like a monster ambush. So Garou obeys and prepares to finish the job, but Light, clinging desperately to life, crawls forward and suddenly feels the ground beneath him glow. He's in the middle of a teleportation circle. Drago notices and barks for Garou to finish him quickly, yet the circle activates and snatches Light away before Garou can reach him. Salvation is only partial. The trap dumps him at a random spot in the dungeon where he knows a single monster sighting means death. As he lies there, he remembers his family and wonders what he did to deserve this betrayal, recalling how kindly everyone had treated him only to reveal their true colors when they stabbed him in the back. Furious, he channels that anger into a will to survive, forcing himself up and swearing he'll tear those bastards apart with his own hands. Then a low growl comes from behind him. As Light turns, a level 1000 monster glares at him, making him panic as if facing a nightmare out of a fairy tale. Realizing he was teleported to the dungeon's lowest floor, he figures he had a better chance against his own party than this beast. Desperate, he remembers his ultimate gacha and frantically presses the button. Suddenly, his ordinary gift transforms, a massive magic circle forms beneath him, and the device powers up. Just as the monster leaps, the gacha completes, summoning a level 999 maid servant, who instantly annihilates the threat. Before he can even process it, the maid kneels, heals his wounds, and softly explains she couldn't bear to see his smooth skin injured. Shocked by his sudden recovery, Light gives his name and the maid beams with joy, swearing to serve him till death under her maid's code. Light insists she introduce herself first, and she reveals her name as May, the ever-seeking maid from a super-ultra-rare card. Though Light doubts such a servant could come from his worthless gift, May asks to use her appraisal skill to uncover its hidden truth. He immediately gives permission. May links to him and discovers his powers are hidden by an extremely strong concealment that anyone below her level can't detect. She tells Light his ultimate gacha is far more valuable than he thinks. The cards it rolls depend heavily on the mana density of his location, and reveals there's a rarity beyond her own super-ultra tier. May explains the surface air is mana poor while the dungeon depths are saturated, which is how she could pull him. She praises his courage for coming alone into the depths to unlock her gift, and he breaks down, calling himself a loser who couldn't even approach the dungeon without help, crying as he recounts how his party betrayed him after promising to build a world without discrimination. He vows revenge, swearing to make them suffer before he kills them. May suddenly hugs him, saying she can't fully understand his pain but will help and that taking out the bastards won't be difficult for her. Light insists she mustn't do it, not of kindness, but because he wants to do it with his own hands, only he's too weak now. May kneels and promises to help him grow strong enough for revenge because she believes in his potential. Light can only thank her. Unsatisfied with a single overpowered ally in his harem, he uses his unlimited gacha again, summoning more high-class maids to form a kingdom that will become the base for his grand vengeance. 3 years after that fateful day, Light now reigns over hundreds of maids in the grand palace he built for himself. As promised, May remains faithfully by his side, ensuring order among the maids who are completely infatuated with him and cheer joyfully whenever he acknowledges them. Leaving the castle, Light heads toward the local market where people greet him warmly. A vendor invites him for breakfast while others complain about a snack shortage. Light assures them he'll handle it soon, but May insists she'll take care of the logistics herself. Realizing the population has grown several times in the past 3 years, Light decides a new logistics system is needed. He asks May about his legendary summons, and she explains that Yuki the Beast Tamer is mapping the lands near the dungeons and scouting the forests for threats. Knowing Yuki's skill, Light feels confident she can handle any monsters that appear. May adds that Ellie the Mage is busy developing the complex magic needed for his grand plan, though Light wonders if she can manage such intricate spells. Finally, he asks about Nazuna, the vampire knight known for her exceptional close combat skills despite being somewhat clumsy in other matters. May explains she assigned Nazuna to patrol the castle grounds to keep her from getting into trouble with her empty head. Light doesn't mind her antics, saying she makes life in the castle more entertaining. When they return, Light is summoned by Jack, the last of his 4 legendary summons, who asks if he's ready for training. Annoyed, May tells Jack to address Light properly as Master, but Jack, being a true Sigma, ignores her. Light assures May it's fine since he sees Jack as an older brother and decides to join him for training. In the training grounds, they prepare a spar. Light dashes forward and lands a solid punch to Jack's abs, forcing him back with impressive strength. Jack grins, saying a normal adventurer would have died from that blow, but he can handle it since he's built like a tank. They clash again, their punches colliding before stepping back. Light unleashes a series of fast strikes, which Jack skillfully dodges. Meanwhile, Nazuna continues her patrol through the corridors, cheerfully bouncing along until some maids greet her, complimenting her for keeping the castle safe and free from danger. The maids, wanting to prank Nazuna, suggest she check Light's bedchamber to ensure everything is fine. Delighted by the idea, Nazuna heads there and tries to open the door, only for May to step out. Surprised, Nazuna asks why May was inside since Light should be at training. Flustered, May claims she was just cleaning. Nazuna insists on checking for danger and enters before May can stop her, noticing the messy bed. She innocently comments that it looks like someone was rolling around and sniffing the pillows, asking if May did that on purpose. Thinking quickly, May says it's her special bed-making style. Impressed, Nazuna asks to learn it, but May refuses, calling it a trade secret. Nazuna then remembers the maid's message, handing May a parchment that reveals their revolt against her for monopolizing Light's room. May brushes it off, assuring Nazuna she'll handle it, and slips her some coins to stay quiet. Nazuna, pleased with the bribe, happily walks away. Nazuna heads to the market and browses the food she can buy, finally choosing fluffy pancakes and fresh milk. Cheerful, she returns to the castle and spots Yuki on the balcony. Asking if her forest work is done, Yuki, clearly annoyed, shows the completed map May requested. Nazuna congratulates her and resumes her patrol before heading to the throne room. Alone in the gaudy hall, she screams freely, then jumps onto the throne and accidentally breaks an angel statue's wing. Panicking, she hurriedly fixes it and bolts out. Meanwhile, Light and Jack are still training. After finishing, Jack suggests they relax and then move to the large bath. There, Jack praises Light's fast progress, saying most dungeon monsters would be no match for him, though some might still seek to destroy him. Remembering his betrayal 3 years ago, Light grows serious and vows not to stop until he gets his revenge. In May's chambers, she summons the 4 troublesome maids, angrily reading their letter and demanding an explanation. Speechless before her, they apologize, saying they only meant to support her since she's overworked. May tells them to mind their own duties instead and refuses their request to clean Light's room, punishing them with scrubbing the long hallway to the throne room by hand. Shock. They protest, but May insists it will keep them busy while she's away with Light on a mission. Outside, Nozuna eyes a gauntlet in a shop window she can't afford until Ellie shows up, asking what she's staring at. Nozuna points it out and questions why Ellie's back early from overseeing construction. Ellie says the work's fine and she's sneaking a break, leading to a spat over who's closer to Light. Ellie boasts she's part of his revenge plan and even shared tea with him discussing progress, adding that next time she'll arrange a private dinner. Nozuna jokes that she even wants to have tea with the master before telling Ellie she's skilled in close-quarters combat and can help anytime. Ellie smiles, saying she'll remember that, and Nozuna leaves to resume her dull duties. Meanwhile, in the castle, the 4 maids gossip about May, comparing her to a certain mustached tyrant and debating whether to snitch to Light, but they back down, fearing her anger. One notes that Light treats May specially because she was his first summon, while another mentions it took 2 months before he summoned Yuki, meaning he and May were alone together all that time. Jealous, the maids act absurdly before deciding to curse May through a voodoo chant. Unfortunately, May overhears everything and corners them. Panicking, they apologize and admit their jealousy. May scolds them, explaining that during those 2 months, Light was only studying magic and martial arts, leaving no time for anything else. Relieved, the maids calm down while May remarks she returned thinking she'd been too harsh, but now realizes she wasn't. May orders the maids to clean the throne room too, leaving them no choice but to obey after wasting time on voodoo magic. Fearing her wrath, they stay silent as they clean. However, while dusting the throne, the green-haired maid accidentally knocks off a piece of the broken angel wing left by Nozuna. Terrified, they assume they'll be blamed. The next morning, Light enters the dungeon where Nozuna, Ellie, and Yuki await. After greeting them, Nozuna and Ellie start arguing, but a hellhound suddenly emerges from the shadows. Though stronger than before, Light freezes from trauma, his body tense with fear. Enraged by his distress, Nozuna prepares to slice it apart. Ellie vows to wipe out all hellhounds, and Yuki considers sending it to the deepest pit of hell. Their combined aura terrifies the beast, making it cower. Light regains composure, calms his companions, and gently pats the monster, knowing his summons would truly destroy the entire species if he wished. He then faces his team, declaring it's time to head to the surface and begin their revenge. In another part of the world, Garu strolls through a beastman town where the locals shower him with admiration. One even offers his own sister, but Garu ignores it. He then notices a starving human child scavenging through trash and, out of cruelty, walks over just to knock the boy down and spit on him. Later, in a private room, Garu's followers praise his rise from a slum-born beast to the next potential village chief, even recognized by the current one. When asked how he achieved it, Garu boasts that he simply relied on instinct, like the job he took 3 years ago, pretending to support a race unification group while secretly being paid to kill a human suspected of being a master. He never confirms Light's death, but assumes the weak boy couldn't have survived and dismisses the thought. Moments later, May enters, demanding to know about Light. Though Garu's men try to silence her, he allows her to speak. She introduces herself as a maid of Lord Light, fabricating a story that her master is of noble descent and that she has been searching for him across the continent. Garu felt wary. Those who hired him had done a full background check on Light, and Light never claimed to be a noble, yet he looked like a rich noble's maid. So Garu saw an easy chance for money. When he asked the woman why she'd come, she said she'd learned Light supposedly died in the dungeon 3 years ago and wanted him to lead her to his last known location so she could pay her respects, even offering solid gold. He found the offer too suspicious to trust, but because May seemed like an ordinary human, he brushed off his doubts and agreed, claiming, falsely, he wasn't doing it for the money, but because Light had been a good friend. A lie May knew was a lie, but kept playing her part and thanked him. A month later, the party tracking the case went missing. Garu never meant to keep the deal. Once they reached the spot, he planned to ambush May and let her die like Light, and when they arrived, she fell to her knees in despair while Garu fabricated a tale of a monster attack and a teleportation trap that had taken Light before anyone could save him. As Garu spoke, his men quietly sealed off the exit to stop May from escaping. Just as they prepared to strike, May suddenly said that if she had been with Light from the beginning, he would never have been deceived by such scum. Hearing this, Garu froze and backed away in panic. Only a few high-ranking members knew the truth of that event. He demanded to know how she learned it and accused her of being a spy. Offended, May declared that she was and would always be a maid loyal to Lord Light, and calling her otherwise was a sin worthy of death. A crushing aura emanated from her, and Garu's instinct screamed at him to flee despite her being human. Before she could lose control, Light appeared, ordering her to stop because Garu was his prey. Everyone froze. No one had sensed his arrival. Garou stared in disbelief, unable to comprehend how Light was still alive. Light calmly announced his return for revenge, but Garou burst into laughter, mocking the idea that a level 15 human could challenge a level 150 beastman. Convinced that killing Light would earn him a promotion, Garou prepared to strike. Light sighs and asks Garou if he's really not curious how he survived before resorting to violence. Garou assumes he just got lucky and was saved by Mei after being teleported, which is exactly what happened. Without hesitation, Garou orders his men to attack. Two charge forward, but before they can get close, Mei swiftly decapitates them. The rest freeze, unable to track her movements, growing terrified until Garou insists it was only a fluke. Light thanks Mei for stepping in but tells her he can handle it from here and asks her to guard the exit. Garou laughs, claiming they could never lose to weak humans. Light grows tired of his arrogance, pointing out that the real weak one is Garou himself. Hiru scoffs, saying humans lack mana and could never surpass them. Light calmly asks why two of Garou's men are already headless if that's true. Garou dismisses it as a mistake, then lunges at Light with his goons. Light simply closes his eyes and dismantles them effortlessly. Garou hits the ground, eyes wide, realizing he was struck harder than ever, and he never even saw it coming. Light stands over Garou's fallen body, asking if this is really the best his so-called superior race can do. Furious at being looked down on, Garou smashes a necklace to the ground, summoning a level 500 Fenrir and declaring that this is the end for Light. But Light calmly replies that such a level is far too weak to be a challenge. Garou assumes he's lost his mind from fear, certain no one could face Fenrir alone, and orders him to kneel if he wants a painless death. Seeing that Garou still doesn't grasp the power gap, Light sets aside his staff and tells him he won't move. Garou can hit him with his strongest attack. Convinced it's a bluff, Garou unleashes Fenrir's Howling Beast Blast, strong enough to vaporize a fortress. Yet when the dust clears, Light stands untouched. He sighs, finding it pathetic that Garou boasted so much about such a weak strike, and even jokes that his creature is more like a Fenrir puppy. Pulling out a summon card, he says he'll show Garou what a real Fenrir looks like, then summons a level 9000 Wolf God. With a single breath, the mighty beast freezes Garou's summon solid, ending the fight instantly. Garou finally realizes how doomed he is when Light casually summons a wolf strong enough to obliterate his creature without effort. But Light explains the wolf god was only for show. He could handle the summon himself and just wanted to make the power gap clear. Activating his status screen, Light reveals he's level 9999. Garou freezes in terror, shocked that levels could even reach that high, suspecting Light might not be human at all. Still, it doesn't matter. This being could kill him easily. Dropping his weapons in pride, Garou pleads for mercy, claiming he only followed orders and never meant to betray him. Light ignores the excuses and says he has questions. First, he asks about the masters Garou's superiors mentioned, but Garou admits he knows nothing. Then Light demands to know why they were ordered to kill him after confirming he wasn't one, yet Garou can only say he followed commands blindly. When Light turns to the other beastmen, they lie, pretending to know about the masters to save themselves, only for Mei to instantly cut them down for their deceit before Lord Light. Turning back to Garou, Light says he has one last question. Mei's eye of judgment would spot any lie, Light reminded him, so Garou shouldn't try to bluff. Then he asked, via Garou's keen intuition, whether the lone Garou could win a war against the surface nations now. Garou hesitated but admitted that his raw strength would give an early edge, yet couldn't carry a full-scale war against countless soldiers, weapons, and items. Light read the truth in him and, unsurprised, said he had something to show. He pulled a teleport card and sent Garou and Mei to the throne room. Garou, bracing in fear, went silent when he saw Light's army. Light had his subordinates display their levels. Most were over 5,000, the weakest still 1,500. Light then asked if victory was possible with such forces, and Garou's expression answered before he spoke. Light pretended to grant forgiveness, but instead vowed endless torment, and Garou understood there was nothing he could do. Light was like a god of destruction. Months later, Light finally emerges from the dungeon with his party and sets out to visit his old village, eager to show his family that he's become strong enough to protect them. But when he arrives, his excitement turns to horror as he finds the entire village in ruins. Overwhelmed, he collapses in despair until Mei and the others comfort him, vowing to avenge those responsible. His only solace comes from not finding his family's bodies among the dead, clinging to the hope they escaped and are still alive somewhere. Weeks later, Light returns to the destroyed village with Gold, an armored knight, and Nemimu, a gray-haired assassin. This time, calmer and determined, he searches for clues about his family's fate and helps build graves for the fallen villagers. As he lays flowers on them, he concludes the attack must have been carried out by adventurers of another race. Lost in thought, he's interrupted by Gold's impatient reminder that if they don't leave soon, they'll be forced to sleep in the open. Nemimu snaps, insisting Light belongs to the morning and they must give him all the time he needs, but Gold replies he'd scale ice-clad peaks and descend into the deepest hell for that Light. Even so, they must first find a comfortable, safe place for Light to mourn. Nemimu can't argue, and the small quarrel lifts Light's mood. He smiles, stands, tells them to relax, and says they'll find lodging soon but should gather more intelligence first. Though their forces could challenge the world, Light urges caution and warns against rushing into total war. Gold agrees, you must know your enemy as well as yourself. Light suspects the raid on his village targeted him as a potential maestro, and the secret society's willingness to slaughter everyone that burns him with fury. He vows to root out that evil, even if it means raising the world. Nemu reels at Light's aura, but Gold hushes him. Anger must be restrained in the city, and Light breathes out, calms, and produces a crude, edgy mask. As they approach the city, Nemu asks Light about their plan once inside. Light explains that they must stay low-key at first to avoid suspicion from the Concord of 12 and register with the Adventurers Guild. After that, they'll raise their party's rank to gain better access to information from those seeking help or favor. Gold praises the plan but suggests they walk to avoid drawing attention. Light agrees and they land to continue on foot. While passing through the forest, they hear shouting ahead and find dwarves surrounding a man and his daughter. The dwarves, noticing Gold's armor, demand they reveal themselves, but Light calmly orders his servants to handle them. Nemu quickly subdues the dwarves, leaving them tied up in shock. Grateful, the man offers them a ride to the city of Dogas. His daughter, amazed by their strength, says she's never seen a human defeat a dwarf, and her father agrees it's rare. When he asks if they're a renowned adventuring party, Light admits they haven't even registered yet, leaving the man stunned. The man tells Light he's come to the right place to start a new party. Gagas lies on the border of the dwarf kingdom, connecting both human and elven lands, making it a hub of adventures, dungeons, trade, and disputes. Though popular among humans, many face discrimination elsewhere, so the man runs an inn where every race is treated equally. After arriving at the city gates, Light and his group thank him as he introduces himself as Colonel and invites them to his inn if they stay the night. Inside, they marvel at the lively streets lined with shops, glowing forges, and dwarves crafting weapons. Eventually, they reach the Adventurers Guild, a large hall crowded with groups around quest boards. Light notices several human adventurers, though bias still lingers as others give way to non-humans. Choosing to ignore it, he approaches the registration desk to receive their rank. When the receptionist assigns them a low one, Nemu snaps, warning her to fix her attitude and demanding she reassess since Light deserves S rank at least. The receptionist dismisses her rudely, telling her to take the rank and step back with her smelly human self. Before Nemu could speak, Light stopped her, apologized to the receptionist, accepted the rank, and left. Outside, Nemu frantically apologized for ruining everything, but Light calmly led his party to Colonel's inn. Delighted to see them, the Colonel asked how he could help. Light said he had a special request, to rent the entire upper floor for a month, allowing no one but his group inside, not even the staff. He apologized for the inconvenience but insisted it was necessary, offering a bag of gold as payment. Colonel refused at first, saying he couldn't take money from the man who saved his life, but Light insisted until he accepted. Upstairs, Light set up magical barriers to block all prying eyes, removed his mask and cloak, and began to relax. Nemu quietly told him he should have let her and Gold handle gathering information since, despite his strength, caution was vital. Her words angered Light, who stood and demanded to know she was trying to stop him from taking revenge on those who destroyed his village and family. His deadly aura returned, terrifying Nemu, who dropped to the floor, trembling and begging for forgiveness. Light eventually calms down and apologizes to Nemu, realizing she only worries for his safety. The next morning, they prepare for the dungeon expedition, dressing up and joining the long line at the gates. As they wait, three hooded figures confidently cut ahead of a group of young human adventurers. Light quickly recognizes them as non-human, and while others stay silent, he steps forward and tells them to return to their place. One hooded man glares in shock that a human dared to confront him, but Light warns him that if he's of noble blood, he wouldn't want to cause a scene. The man reaches for his weapon, only to be stopped by his companion, and they reluctantly step back, though he warns Light that it isn't over. The surrounding humans cheer for Light's bravery, while the adventurers ahead ask why he hasn't brought any supplies, warning that this vast dungeon could take days to clear. Soon after, they enter the dungeon and find themselves in a strange new world filled with monsters. Once certain no one was watching, Light activates his concealment and flight magic, allowing them to glide unseen through the dungeon. Elsewhere, deep in the jungle, the hooded man removes his cloak. Fuming over the humans' disrespect, Kido draws the massive sword from his back, declaring himself as the youngest elf ever to join the elite White Knights and the one carrying the Master's blood. Consumed by rage, he slaughters the orcs, stabbing their heads as the dark elf Yen urges him to calm down. Still angry, Kido laments being stuck at level 1500 when ordinary elves cap at 700, vowing to surpass his limits no matter what. Meanwhile, on the third floor, Light and his party finish clearing it, collecting magic gems as proof before heading back to the surface. Admiring the dungeon's beauty, they note how flight makes traversing floors effortless, letting them clear several in a single day. On their way up, they spot young adventurers battling goblins and watch as they display solid teamwork. When a hidden bush snake slithers toward the mage girl, Light swiftly kills it and warns them to stay alert to their surroundings. Grateful, the group thanks him, but moments later, wolves burst from the forest, only to flee instead of attack. Their confusion turns to dread as a massive mantis emerges, crushing trees in its path, with Light standing as the only barrier between the beast and the young adventurers. The kids are stunned to see a mantis monster alive, knowing the species was thought extinct for a decade and far beyond their ability to handle. Their leader tells Mia to distract it with magic, though he knows it won't help much, and then begs Light and his group to help so they can all escape. But when Light hears they plan to flee, he calmly asks if they'd mind him taking the mantis instead. The kids call him insane, claiming it must be at least level 500, but Light assures them his team can handle it. Gold moves first, striking fast, only to find the mantis's claws strong enough to block his blows. Light follows up with a fire arrow, but the mantis parries and sends it back at him, shocking the kids. Maya, too amazed by Light's use of incantation-free combat magic to concentrate, forgets to attack. The others don't grasp how impressive that is, but Gold tells them to stay back and watch. Grinning, he explains that a shield isn't just for defense. As the mantis lunges, he spins, perfectly parrying and shattering its claw. A knight never misses a chance to strike, he adds before dashing behind and slicing off one of its legs. Light fires again, and this time, as the mantis deflects, the arrows curve midair and pierce its back. Light controlled the arrows with precision, striking the mantis no matter how it moved until its limbs were torn apart. When it tried fleeing into the forest, surprised by its instinct to retreat, Light blocked its path with a sudden firewall. Maya was awed, never having seen such large-scale tactical magic cast so swiftly. The mantis spread its wings to escape, but Nimue leaped and shredded it midair. Gold scolded her for destroying its valuable parts, and Nimue later apologized to Light, who told her not to worry. The children nearby whispered in disbelief at seeing a human defeat a quad-set mantis. Among the remains, they found an intact magic gem for proof of victory. When asked if he belonged to a famous adventurer group, Light simply replied they were frankers, leaving them speechless. Maya then conjured a water sphere for him to clean up, calling it the least she could do. As night fell, their leader invited Light's group to camp with them, partly for safety and partly because Mia wanted to talk about magic. Over dinner, she eagerly questioned him, and Light fabricated a story about being the son of two powerful mages to explain his ability to cast without incantations. Maya believed it, though her brother seemed unimpressed until she passionately explained the three classes of magic: combat, tactical, and strategic. The last being world-altering spells like earthquakes or meteorites, usually requiring multiple elite mages. To her, Light's ability was extraordinary. Her brother admitted as much but reminded her she was talented too, having earned a duchess's recommendation to the Magic Academy under the Principality of Nine. Light showed interest and Mia confirmed it while Gold praised her. Her brother agreed, though he added with sorrow that their parents had died of plague, forcing them to give up her studies and become adventurers with their childhood friends Jimra and Wardy. Their goal was to earn enough from dungeon runs to send Maya to the academy, though she insisted she was happy just being with them and didn't want them to overwork. Her brother promised not to be reckless, reminding Light of his own little sister. When they asked why he became an adventurer, Light lied that his parents died in a fire that left him burned and that he sought a potion to heal himself. The mood grew somber until Jimra lightened it by asking if Gold and Nemumu were dating, prompting her to snap she'd never date him, while Gold calmly said he had no interest in a childish woman like her. Deeper in the dungeon, Kido slaughtered orcs for Yanni's experiment to break racial level limits, and once they had enough materials, Yanni said they only needed a human subject, one Kido already had in mind. Later, Light traded a mountain of magic stones at the guild, drawing stares and admiration. After defeating the mantis, their party, Black Muckley, had become famous, earning far better treatment from the guild, much to the satisfaction. On their way back, a man called out to him. Nemumu tensed, but he introduced himself as Suvalin, with Gilbert beside him, saying they'd heard about Light's party reaching the fifth door. Light spoke with them briefly before their group was called into the dungeon, and as they left, he felt glad to inspire hope in other humans despite the envy and doubt from other races. Expecting such reactions, he planned to silence them through results. Inside, he told Gold and Nemumu he aimed to reach the fifth floor again, but stopped when he saw Maya and her brother. They were thrilled to meet him, and Maya shyly handed him a clamshell of ointment she made for his supposed burns. Feeling guilty but moved, Light thanked her and gave her a beautiful bracelet in return. She hesitated, but he assured her gift meant a lot, so she accepted it happily, promising to treasure it. When Amunu later pointed out it was an S-class wishing bracelet capable of creating small miracles, Light only smiled, saying it suited Maya. After some time, they reach the fifth floor, blanketed in snow that provides perfect cover. Light orders Gold and Nima to hunt Yennis while he's gone, then uses a teleportation item to return to his throne room in the dungeon city. There sipping tea, he asked about the progress of their revenge plan. Helly reports that preparations are nearly complete, and Light authorizes her to use any resources needed to keep things running smoothly. He assigns May to manage affairs in the Abyss and Oyuki to continue scouting. When Nazuna asks for a task, Light, not wanting to leave her out despite her limited skills, tells her to stay on standby to defend the city if a strong enemy appears. Satisfied, she vows to let no one through, while Light looks forward to the day he can see Sasha's miserable face when his plan unfolds. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the dungeon, Gilbert and Suvalin stand watch as their companions sleep. When Suvalin steps away for a moment, he returns to find Gilbert's severed head and Kido standing over the corpses, declaring his hatred for humans. Furious but aware of his limits, Suvalin uses a smoke bomb to flee and warn the guild. Just as he believes he's escaped, a strike hits his back. Kaido is chasing him on a hoverboard. Yanak appears, knocking Suvalin unconscious and scolding Kaito for killing everyone instead of capturing them alive. Kaito dismisses it, but Yanak insists they need living humans for Jean's unstable experiments, knowing Suvalin will die from side effects before the research is perfected. They agree to find more human test subjects. The next day, Nemumu throws all the magic stones on the counter and demands Lord Dark's rank be raised immediately. Terrified, the receptionist explains it's impossible since the guild already approved a double promotion from F to D. Ignoring the rules, Nemumu insists her master's power surpasses any rank, even S. Unsure how to calm her, the receptionist suggests Dark complete another great feat. Soon after, Dark takes a mission poster from the guild about hunting adventurer killers who target humans. Confident this will earn them a promotion, he and Gold prepare, though Nemumu reminds them they lack clues about the culprits. Gold asks if one of Dark's mysterious letters could help, but he says they appear randomly. Nemumu then proposes asking the Abyss for aid, but before they can, a portal suddenly opens in their room. Maya collapses from it, wounded and unconscious, her bracelet broken. Dark catches her, lays her on the bed, and heals her before using hypnosis to see her memories. In her mind, Maya and her group had been camping when another team warned them about powerful adventurer hunters attacking humans. Alarmed, Maya's brother decided they should leave immediately, and they hurriedly packed to escape. Everyone was exhausted from the earlier adventure and couldn't keep a steady pace, causing the sun to set before they even made it halfway. That led to the worst outcome. Kaito and Yanak found the group. Believing the elves were unaware of the forest's situation, Mia asked her brother to warn them about the adventurer hunters in the area. The elves, realizing their mistake, regretted not hiding their traces and admitted the rumor explained why humans avoided the place. Kaito then decided they couldn't waste the chance to deal with the kids and drew his sword. The three boys told Maya to run while they held him off, a statement that offended the level 500 White Knight. Maya's brother charged first, but was struck down by a single powerful blow. Jimra and Wardy attacked next, only to be defeated just as easily. Horrified, Maya watched as Wardy, barely conscious, urged her to run. Summoning his last strength, Jimra rose to fight again, but Kaito, irritated by their persistence, struck with double the force, killing them both. Yanak complained that Kaito had once again ruined their research subjects, but Kaito warned him not to interfere and reminded him there was still one girl left. Yanak sighed that while mages were rare, the three boys would have been just as valuable. Kaito, promising to go easier next time, decided to use Maya before she was taken for experiments, while Yanak, uninterested, stepped aside. Approaching the frightened girl, the elf mocked her fear, saying she should feel honored to be chosen by a future legendary hero. Nearby, Maya's wounded brother struggled to his feet, urging her to run and feeling relieved that at least one of his test subjects had survived. Yanak ordered Kaito to capture the boy, but the adventurer, aware of his fate, fought on to save his sister. Using his final strength, he shouted for Mia to escape, and this time she obeyed. Kaito moved to chase her, but her brother blocked his path and attacked. Annoyed, Kaito muttered that it wasn't as easy as it looked, while Yanak reminded him not to kill the boy. The young human recalled Gold's teachings: block with the shield, strike with the sword, but always use your head. And with a sudden burst of energy, he feinted with his blade and struck Kaito down with his shield. Shocked, Kaito couldn't believe he had fallen, and his rage toward the boy peaked. Enraged, he unleashed his sword, Grandius, impaling the youth through the torso. As the boy lay dying, Yanak stopped Kaito from finishing him and urged him to chase Maya before she could expose them. Using Grandius as a board and channeling its energy beams with precision, Kaito swiftly caught up to her. Tired of the pursuit, he decided to teach her respect, revealing that Grandius, a legendary Phantom-class weapon and elven national treasure, allowed him to clone and control countless sword copies. Shocked by his speed, Maya stood her ground, refusing to waste her friend's sacrifice. She attacked with ice spears, but Grandius shattered them with ease. When she tried to flee, Kaito injured her leg and demanded surrender. Maya defied him, declaring that a real hero was kind and brave like Lord Dark, not a cruel coward. Her words reopened Kato's wounds of being mocked and expelled from the White Knights, pushing him into a rage. He unleashed a storm of energy beams, but before they struck, Maya used her last strength to alert Dark. Hearing her call, Dark prepared to act. Meanwhile, Yanak struggled to heal her dying brother. Kaito returned, furious that Maya had vanished. Yanak admitted he thought she had reunited with her allies, angering Kaito for being fooled by a child. Suspecting teleportation magic, they panicked when Yanak warned the Elven Kingdom might discover their crimes and Kato's theft of Grandius. Kaito trembled at the thought of the White Knights commander and his powerful subordinates coming after him. Yanak calmed him, promising their research would soon let Kaito surpass his limits, but they had to escape fast. Suddenly, Dark appeared, his presence undetected even by Kato's level 1,500 senses. As Dark closed the fallen brother's eyes, Gold arrived carrying the barely alive Alo. After healing him, Dark mourned the innocent children who suffered in a world of discrimination, saying they only worked to fulfill Maya's dream. Though he believed that dream impossible, he vowed never to forgive the elves who caused their pain. Yanak lies, claiming the human is mistaken and that he was the one who saved the dying boy. Dark reveals he's with the girl they were chasing, but tells the elves to calm down since he didn't report them to the guild. Feeling overjoyed, Kato laughs, certain that killing his foes will make him a legendary hero. Dark mocks the idea of saying he kept quiet only to make them suffer like they did to those children. The boy orders Gold and Nemu to stay back and steps forward. Kato scoffs, calling him an insect, but the boy's glare fuels his rage. The elf charges, vowing to tear his enemy apart, yet Dark effortlessly blocks the flurry and counters with a firm strike to Kato's stomach, taunting him about his so-called heroism. Furious, Kato unleashes the power of Grandius, summoning countless magic-infused sword clones. Fire and ice swirl as Dark dodges and deflects the precise attacks, while Yanok watches in disbelief that a mere human could stand against an elf wielding a phantom-class sword, pouting like a spoiled child. Kato accuses Dark of cheating, claiming that despite posing as a mage, he's clearly a fighter, proof, he says, of why he despises humans, since no mage could rival his strength. Gold retorts that Kato couldn't be more wrong, while Nemumu, uncertain how to define her master, guesses Dark is something like an unlimited card mage. Dark then summons a storm of ice swords without chanting, leaving Kato stunned. He launches countless sword clones, but Dark's ice rain shatters them with ease. Yanok watches in disbelief as the human displays more mana than even an elven mage. Desperate, Kato keeps attacking from all directions, yet Dark's defense remains perfect. The swirling ice blades alone block every strike. Losing control, Kato refuses to accept defeat, furious that a legendary hero like him is being overwhelmed by a mere human. Still, he swears he won't lose, brandishing the sacred sword Grandius, once granted by the heavens to an ancient master. Hearing this, Dark's group is startled, and the boy questions the story about the master. Kato laughs, boasting that not only does he know who that master was, but he is their descendant, a submaster who carries their bloodline. Yanok, who secretly views elves as superior beings compared to worthless light races, is cut off when Dark orders a change of plans, telling his group to take the captured elves to the abyss and extract whatever information they can. As Gold and Nemumu get ready to fight, Yanok mocks them with exaggerated fear, admitting he's only a researcher and not a warrior, but since they insist on violence, he calls for support, snapping his fingers to summon two giant human-fused monsters, one mixed with lizards from the Dark Elves' land and the other blended with humans and trolls from the same dungeon. Dark's team recognizes Suvalin's face on the second monster, a man they met days ago. Yanok proudly explains that his expertise allows him to push species past their limits through mixing, though it costs many humans just to make one creature function, so he needs more subjects for what he calls sacred research. Dark tells him to be silent, and Ben orders Gold and Nemumu to free the suffering humans while keeping the elves from escaping because they still need answers. Yanok sends his creations forward, but Gold and Nemumu destroy each monster in one strike and warn him he's next, only for Yanok to laugh at their confidence. The monsters regenerate almost instantly, forcing Dark's companions to dodge heavy attacks. Kaito, still obsessed with bringing Dark down after the events in the dungeon, presses his assault, but Dark maintains control. Nemumu moves faster than Yanok and stabs his hand and chest with no effect, prompting Gold to boast he'll finish his own opponent first, only to nearly be struck when he misses the fused creature and barely blocks in time. Growing smug, Yanok taunts them and promises to treat them gently as experiments if they surrender. As the tension rises, Gold and Nemumu can no longer stand watching the trapped victims suffer. Nemumu activates her certain death skill while Gold unleashes the flame of judgment. Yanok mocks their effort until he realizes his monsters have stopped regenerating as the fire consumes them. Nemumu seizes the opening, kicks him hard between the legs, and notes she'll need new boots after stepping on what she calls an elven omelet. Meanwhile, Dark crushes Kaito, watching him stagger like a lost insect under falling ice spears, reminding him that he used to complain when prey ran, only for Kaito to have no comeback this time. Kaito is suddenly hit by the memory of a Leo whose confident smile remained even at death's door. Irritated at being belittled by kids, the former White Knight draws heavily on Grandius' power and awakens his strongest ability, releasing a fierce strike at Dark. Dark dodges and notices the blade carries multiple magic types, growing larger, faster, and whip-like with every swing as it stretches after him, though he avoids each attack with ease. From a distance, Gold comments on the colorful display, and Nemumu notes that such tricks won't work on Lord Dark. While evading, Light admits the technique looks cool but cheap, provoking the elf further. Kaito grows wilder, desperate for a killing blow, and Light abruptly stops, opens his arms, and lets him attack. Seizing the chance, Kaito pours even more power into Grandius and strikes, raising a huge cloud of dust. Since Dark didn't move, it appears the hit landed, but when the dust clears, the blade rests harmlessly on the boy's shoulder, leaving Kaito speechless. Dark allows him to keep attacking, yet every strike fails, driving Kaito into panic. Bored, Dark destroys Grandius' magic in a single hit and finishes with a punch and kick that sends the elf flying. He then states he'll drag out every answer only after making Kaito beg for death, and Light will finish him without mercy. Terrified, Kaito begs for mercy, claiming he's a White Knight commander candidate with valuable information. Dark hands Grandius away and mocks him for boasting about being a legendary hero without the resolve shown by Ilio, Jimra, and Wordy, who fought stronger foes to protect Mia, something Kaito never did. Still, Dark gives him one final chance. If Kaito can scratch Light's face even once, he'll be freed. Dark removes his mask, and Kaito freezes upon recognizing his opponent. He tries to flee, but Dark shoots a solar ray through his thigh. As he approaches, he repeats Mia's words. Kido was never a legendary hero, just trash who runs when it matters. After defeating the enemy, Dark gathers the fallen boys, quietly apologizing before deciding to bury them in the abyss and return Aelov to his sister. When Kido and Yamak anxiously ask about their fate, he tells them they will be taken together for interrogation, holding back his frustration so he can get the answers he needs. Activating his teleportation card, he brings everyone to the deepest level of the abyss, leaving the elves shocked since they were in the dog's dungeon just moments ago. Dark explains this harsh place is where he and his companions live, and the elves' complaints only irritate Nemumu, who stomps Yanok's head. The Lord's 4 strongest cards soon arrive, questioning the presence of the 2 elves. Light reveals they have slaughtered countless humans for cruel experiments and likely know about the Masters, prompting the women to vow to torture them until every detail is exposed. Terrified, Yanok and Kido sense their overwhelming power, and Dark coldly states they will be executed once they give all necessary information. He then wonders why they weren't taken to the guild, but the receptionist explains that identifying the criminals is enough and saving 2 colleagues is already more than expected. That night at the inn, Elio, after speaking with his sister, tells their friends they will leave the next day, grateful even though no thanks could match the help they received. Halo chooses to quit adventuring and return home. Mia admits she only felt capable because they were all together, and Aloe agrees, wanting to bring Jirmo's and Wordy's hair back home. Mia decides to study magic alone and promises to become strong before meeting Light and the others again, asking if they will reunite someday, and Light assures her they will. After the brothers leave, Gold and Nemumu tell their master the boys will find their path and meet them again soon. Light silently plans to take them to their friends' graves once the truth can be revealed, and returns to the abyss where May and Ellie welcome him and immediately hand him the elves' interrogation report. The 2 revealed they had drained every memory from their minds with forbidden magic and learned that the submasters Kido mentioned were those with the master's blood, allowing them to level up far faster than others. They also uncovered a memory of Kido speaking with the White Knight's commander, confirming that the world would likely fall if the masters were left on their own. With this discovery, Dark decides to hunt down the commander for deeper answers. At the same time, the maids show their master that Yanok and Kido are now being tortured after interrogation, as they become useless. Light then draws the Banquet of the Dead card, letting skeletal spirits devour the elves. Afterward, Ellie announces that their plan is finally ready and only needs the master's order to begin their revenge against the elf Sasha. The first move will be to capture the White Knights, all of whom are submasters holding valuable information, and their vice commander, Sasha's fiancé, will serve as the perfect bait. Meanwhile, Sasha relaxes beside Mikhail, proudly recalling how she once shot Light in the leg to stop his escape. Mikhail says he wishes he'd seen it and adds that destroying human settlements is sometimes necessary because their dying expressions are priceless. Sasha laughs in agreement, and the 2 share affectionate words. Far below, Light quietly wonders what expressions Sasha will make when she's the one begging for her life at his feet. Sasha returns home with her maid after her date with Michael, listening to the maid gush about how perfect they look together. Their carriage stops when a human slave drops food after being whipped by an elf, and Sasha silently blames humans for being useless. Bored while waiting for the road to clear, she gazes outside and suddenly spots a silhouette she recognizes, sending a jolt of fear through her. She leaps from the carriage and searches the alley, but finds nothing. Trying to calm herself, she insists Light couldn't be alive after all these years, until she turns and sees a note on the wall summoning her to the giant tower, signed by Light himself. Panicking, she collapses, terrified of losing everything she gained from killing him. The reward, her noble rank, and her engagement to Michael. Her maid finds her in despair, unaware that Light and Ellie are watching from a nearby rooftop, pleased with how their revenge begins, and Ellie has far worse planned. Elsewhere in the White Knight camp, Nia and Kia entertain themselves by using a human slave as a living dartboard, while Chariot buries his face into the chest of his own slave, completely lost in depravity. She pretends to cooperate only to avoid becoming their next target as the meeting shifts to Kido's disappearance with the Holy Sword Grandius and his spree of killing adventurers until a human finally stops him, leaving the higher-ups demanding they clean up his mess. When Charfit questions why they must deal with Kido's mistakes, Musk reminds him that Kido was one of them, making his crimes theirs as well. Annoyed by the tortured man's screams, Charfit tells Nea and Kia to finish it, but they refuse, saying they bought the slave and can do whatever they want, even mocking Charlotte for liking humans too much. Musk steps in, urging them to stop arguing and saying that as White Knights he prefers giving humans quick, merciful deaths, though no one agrees. The Knight Captain, barely restraining himself, finally explodes with such fury it terrifies the room and even kills a nearby bird. Silence falls as he scolds them for dragging out the torture and orders Charfit to end it, and Charfit casually blows the man's head apart. The captain then orders Nea and Kia to dispose of the body, and the woman on his lap trembles until he assures her he'd never treat her that way and lets her leave, prompting her to flee. He advises Charfit to keep his hobbies but avoid humans, reminding him that elves who mate with human masters risk weakening their bloodline. Charfit says there's no danger since he never planned to have a child with his slave and was already bored of her, even planning to shoot her later and inviting the captain to join, but the captain refuses, saying he dislikes humans but takes no pleasure in torturing them. His focus is resolving the Kido issue because he won't let anyone stain their queen's honor. That night, Sasha lies in bed until a strange noise draws her to the window, where she sees a massive tower rising from the forest, chilling her as she remembers Light's letter telling her to meet him at a tower. The next morning, a slave trader arrives with a wagon of human children, but when a rock chimera appears, he panics and flees, leaving the kids behind, though the monster shows no intent to harm them. The elves of the city soon struggle with a food shortage as monsters swarm the trade routes, and many blame the newly risen giant tower. With the nation short-handed but investigating, they offer high rewards to adventurers for any information. Light, Gold, and Nemumu join the crowd, and Nemumu instantly draws the attention of two elves who try to lure her away despite knowing she's human. She calmly dismisses them, saying Light is the only one she serves, but the insulted elves lash out. Light fires a lightning arrow that sends one flying, and the onlookers quickly recognize them as the famed human party from Dagas. Realizing they stand no chance, the elves retreat, and Light is satisfied since his presence will now spread across the elf nation. Meanwhile, in the forest, a group of elf adventurers heads out to investigate the tower and drags along a small human girl to use as bait in case of danger. When she collapses from exhaustion, they threaten to beat her until she stands. They grumble about their sluggish livestock until one elf feels saliva on his hand, and in an instant the rock chimera bites off his head before tearing into the others. A terrified little girl collapses, convinced she's next, but when the beast sniffs her and realizes she's human, it calmly turns and leaves. Relieved, she thinks the nightmare is over, until a group of intimidating men emerge from the trees, discussing how lucky they are to find a human here. On the verge of tears, she assumes she'll be enslaved again, only to be shocked when they pour a healing potion on her and talk about giving her real clothes and food. They're actually members of Light's team assigned to rescue human slaves, and their leader immediately contacts Oyuki for a safe extraction. Meanwhile, on the tower, Oyuki manages the surrounding monsters so they target only elves harming humans. Ellie comes to check on her, worried because it's Oyuki's first time controlling so many surface monsters and wondering if Light is testing them with a moral dilemma. But Oyuki assures her nothing is wrong and the mission is running exactly as planned. Sasha gets word that the ground team is ready, and once they reach the village, they hand the girl over safely, earning her thanks. Heading back to base, the group vents about humans being used as bait and why other races hate them, but no one has an answer until their leader ends the talk and reminds them they're leaving early. That night, Sasha grinds her teeth, frustrated that she can't reach the tower alone with monsters over level 1000 inside, fearing the White Knights will get there first and learn she never killed Light, something she cannot allow. She knows she must reach the tower and finish him herself. The next morning, the Elven Council meets to handle the rising monster threat. With little intel, an official suggests sending their strongest forces and asks the White Knight captain, Hardy, for his opinion. Hardy agrees protection is needed but rejects the plan as reckless, comparing it to using a fine sword to dig through mud. He insists even the best blade is useless without knowing where to strike, and the Queen sides with him, raising the reward for tower information so the White Knights can move once adventurers gather enough intel. The meeting ends with the Chancellor quietly stewing, certain the Queen only supported Hardy because he's her son. Later, Hardy visits her chambers to thank her for sparing him and his men, and she laughs, saying she'd never let him face real danger, though the tower still troubles her. When Hardy asks if it means a new Dark Lord, she says her real concern is the hero who would rise to oppose that Dark Lord, likely a master, someone the elves must win over or eliminate. Hardy recalls rumors of 1 year ago when the Queen says the boy was ordinary and disposed of, then questions Hardy's interest. He simply says he would have liked to join the mission since he sees humans as pests. The next morning, more tower quests appear on the guild board, drawing crowds of adventurers, including Light's group. As they walk, Sasha hears Light's voice, spins around, demands he show his face, and when he calmly claims he's hiding burn marks, she ignores him and smacks the mask off. A moment earlier, Sasha had been walking with her 2 level 300 elf subordinates strong on paper, yet far from enough to calm her nerves, because she already suspected who she might encounter. Fate then brought Light directly into her path, and the unexpected meeting shattered her composure. She struck the mask off his face just to confirm his identity. The instant she saw his features and the disturbing marks in his eyes, regret hit her, and she hastily ordered him to put the mask back on, as if she hadn't removed it herself. Nemumu prepared to intervene, but Lord Dark stopped her, and Sasha, repulsed by the sight of that ominous mark, chose to leave on her own. As she walked away, Light quietly celebrated that the fake scar built into the mask had fooled her, then praised his subordinates for staying calm instead of retaliating. Gold admitted he never expected Sasha to be so cruel, and Light understood better than anyone because the Sasha he remembered was nothing like the one before him now. The thought left him frustrated for not realizing the truth 3 years earlier, which might have saved him from a near-fatal encounter. Setting that aside, the trio moved deeper into the forest, while the hostile elves monitored them. The moment Light's group entered the dense woods, the elves seized their chance and followed. Sensing this, Dark warned that the pursuers would die if they continued, but the enraged elves refused to retreat. Light sped ahead to lose the pursuers and reached the meeting tree early, waiting for the others to arrive. The exhausted elves still chased them down, refusing to let the Abyss warriors escape. Dark acknowledged their persistence, Nemu dismissed it as pointless, and Gold said such stubbornness would doom them. The elves bragged about killing their enemies until Dark summoned Mira. Their confidence vanished as she stepped from the shadows and devoured them instantly. Light apologized for bothering her, but Mira said she would gladly consume thousands for her master, though these two were hardly satisfying. Gold and Nemumu found her impressive and terrifying, and Mira reminded them they were comrades, not prey. Iceheat arrived with the others, assuring them that only enemies feared Mira, a sentiment backed by Suzu's musket and Jack's presence. She apologized for being late, explaining they had to avoid adventurers. Dark told her to lead, and she signaled Suzu, who adjusted her behavior after being reminded to act properly before the master. The group advanced with Suzu and Locke in front. Gold was relieved, Jack came along, and Barricade declared he'd never leave his little brother, Light, unguarded. When he called the master Light, the women glared, but Jack calmly said they were comrades, not worshippers, and Light didn't want to be placed above them. He questioned why they insisted on calling the boy Lord Dark, saying it only isolated him, and refused to act formally around his brother. Noticing the tension, Light stepped in, asking Jack not to provoke them and telling the girls he didn't mind Jack's way of speaking. Even so, Dark felt the awkwardness. To ease it, he told Iceheat he'd never seen her use those gauntlets. She said she'd trained with May to become a proper maid, though wearing them again felt strange. Mara teased her to remove the outfit if she wanted to be dramatic, but Iceheat insisted she wouldn't behave that way near her master. Light watched them, quietly amused by how well they all somehow got along. Gold steadied his breath beside Jack as Locke fixed Suzu's clumsy greeting, and Suzu's timid behavior drew Dark's curiosity when he asked Nemo if Suzu was actually a girl, which Nemo assumed she was. Her card labeled her a double shooter, something the master intended to confirm with Ellie. Ellie and Aoyuki waited nervously until Ellie relaxed at the sight of Lord Light, then rushed to him with Nazuna and Aoyuki to show him the towering structure. Inside, Light was stunned by its vast interior. As Ellie explained, it wasn't fully activated but built with Abyss core magic that made it unbreakable, guaranteeing Dark's safety, and she had even brought a pet capable of handling threats. They climbed to the highest floor where servants bowed and Light took his throne. Ellie then revealed her revised revenge plan against Sasha, inspired by Light's idea of using a grand engagement party with a royal figure. Her version focused on testing the Abyss's power by provoking the elves' White Knights, expecting their defeat to weaken the kingdom and force a surrender so she could gather intel on the masters and nearby nations. The tower would serve as their base, with a Dark clone managing outside work while the real Dark stayed inside. Aoyuki arranged for Sasha to come near the tower, just as one of its creatures wandered the forest. Sasha and her hired adventurers watched from afar, terrified and aware they couldn't win. They wanted to retreat, but their leader demanded they track its origin. The elf scouted ahead but retreated when Ellie's dragon appeared, though she still concluded the tower was responsible and returned to summon the only force capable of responding the White Knights. With everything set, Ellie aimed to trigger a clash between the elves' elite and the Abyss's creatures to test their strength for the coming war and to entertain Dark. Sasha called a late-night emergency meeting to report monstrous beings in the primordial forest, including a dragon hiding in plain sight. The High Council panicked, while the Chancellor received the same report and clashed with a reckless elf knight who had acted without the White Knights. Determined to confirm the danger herself, Sasha pressured Sir Hardy until he agreed to involve the White Knights. She then asked to join the mission to seize the tower, and the Chancellor revealed he already intended for her to go, praising her loyalty without knowing she planned to kill Light. He approved her involvement on the condition that she borrow a specific item from her father, insisting she would hinder the mission otherwise. At dawn, Commander Hardy assembled a squad to follow her lead. When Shar doubted her reliability, she vowed to stick to the plan, and Mael defended her, boasting his level 500 strength and assuring he could survive anything. Even so, he knew he would defend her if things went wrong, quietly admiring Sir Mael's unwavering patriotism. Inia and Kia whispered that Sasha was added to the squad for the Chancellor's political gain, and Sharfot, overhearing them, remarked that politics had no place on the battlefield. Meanwhile, Ellie and Dark monitored enemy movement through a magic mirror, pleased that their revenge was unfolding perfectly, especially Dark, who looked forward to slapping Sasha. While moving through the forest, Sasha tripped and fell into Mikhail's arms, prompting Shara to tell them to get a room. After a long search, the elves finally found the giant tower. Aoyuki responded to the White Knight's approach by sending 5 monsters into the woods, and because their numbers were unclear, Hardy hid his squad and waited for the dragon, the true target. The hired adventurers were meant to act first, so he launched fireworks to draw the monsters away and clear a path for the knights to reach the tower. Hardy then cast silence, erasing every sound, even breathing, unsettling Sasha but failing to break her resolve to find Light. Inside the tower, Dark and Ellie remained calm, while their enemies grew tense. When the White Knights reached the main gate, they triggered a magic circle trap that teleported them into separate zones, splitting their forces apart. Mikhail and Sasha climb an endless spiral staircase while the Abyss leaders observe from afar, Ellie noting that everything is going exactly as planned and Dark's revenge is near. In another place, Enya and Kia search for their allies until Mira and Ice Heat appear. Mira provokes them while Ice Heat warns her not to push too far or the prey might run. Insulted, the twins demand to know who they think they are, and Mira calls them rivals though far weaker, while Ice Heat adds that even cornered weaklings can bite and second-rate elves can still be dangerous. Enya and Kia, furious at being called second-rate, attack at high speed, hitting their foes with no effect. Mira mocks them as dizzy cockroaches as they threaten to break every bone she has. Meanwhile, Chirat curses missing the magic circle and demands anyone hiding to show themselves. Suzu steps out, and he's instantly stunned by her beauty. Trying to charm her, he introduces himself, but Locke explains she can't speak. Realizing her musket is intelligent, Chirat complains about running into a second-rate trap. Locke introduces himself and Suzu, warning the elf he'll forget their names once his brains spill out. Ignoring the threat, Chirat boldly declares Suzu has stolen his heart and suggests skipping the fight for passion, only for the musket to insult him. He asks her type, and the weapon describes someone identical to Lord Dark. Adding romance with its master is impossible. Suzu smacks it in annoyance. Out of patience, Chirat attacks with a summoned beast, and Suzu counters but is stopped by another shot. He praises her speed while Locke notes blocking his attack isn't something just anyone can do. Enya and Kia sprint around the pillars, firing chantless spells. Their sudden wind cutter makes Mira and Ice Heat admit the twins move far beyond normal elves. The pace continues outside the tower, overwhelming the Abyss pair. Elsewhere, an Abyss creature lunges at a man before Dark steps in, telling Nemu and Gold to play along. Gold blocks the strike and Nemu complains until he reminds her it's all just an act. They dramatically announce the arrival of the Black Millie and chase the monster, making Light ask Ellie if this was planned. She denies it. Back at the fight, the twins unleash non-stop wind cutters, boring Mira and worrying Ice Heat about stamina. Boasting they can continue for hours, Enya and Kia decide to finish it by firing a full barrage that forces the Abyss pair into frantic dodges. Kia throws a dagger while Mira pretends to be hit, even acting as if her arm is cut. The twins smugly pause to choose their next target, but Mira casually asks how they'd rate the fight. Ice Heat calls them the weakest foes she's ever seen. Realizing there's no blood, the twins panic as Mira reveals she was never struck. She bites her own arm and regenerates instantly, then pulls off her own head and juggles it, explaining her body's a mix of countless creatures. She introduces herself as Mira the Chimera, a level 7,777 ultra-rare card, while Ice Heat calls herself the Harpoon of the Frozen Firestorm with the same rank. Kia scoffs at their claimed levels and attacks again, but when their blows do nothing, the twins try to escape. Thinking it might be a trick, Ice Heat charges her harpoon while Mira summons a massive shield. Chirat keeps attacking Suzu, who stays calm and untouched. He tricks her with a distraction and lands a hit, but when the dust settles, she's perfectly fine. He admires her beauty and strength, then tries flirting after she mentions liking someone like Light. Block scolds him for diving into danger alone, and Suzu snaps, unleashing magic while chanting die. Meanwhile, Enya and Kia hit a dead end flooded with flames. They cast ice walls over and over until they're overwhelmed by the heat. Back on the battlefield, Suzu fires upward repeatedly, creating hundreds of bullets that rain down like homing missiles. Chirat tries blocking with wind, but is soon overwhelmed and covered in negative effects. The twins survive only because of Ellie's enchantment. Mira says they'd have died without it, while Ice Heat complains they weren't even in a real fight. As the twins beg for mercy, Mira decides torture will give her master the answers he needs. Elsewhere, Sharfat collapses under heavy fire, and Suzu stomps on his head until Locke reminds her they can't kill him. Embarrassed, she cries as her weapon comforts her. Light watches, noting 2 battles are done, and wonders when Sasha will arrive. In another part of the Great Tower, Must wanders lost until Jack appears, introducing himself as Iron Blood Barricade, a level 7,777 ultra-rare card. Must doesn't believe him and refuses appraisal, choosing to fight instead. His halberd strikes are blocked with one hand, and even his strongest blows do nothing, though he's sure he's strong enough to trouble Captain Hardy in a duel. He forces himself forward with all the strength he has left, but the moment he reaches his opponent, a simple flick sends him flying. Realizing this might truly be the power Jack claimed to have, the elf still refuses to give up. He has a duty to the White Knights and the Crown, and he wants to keep helping people. Jack, however, remembers how this brat defines helping, seeing humans as weak, miserable insects who'd be better off crushed for a painless happiness. Must even says that sharing the same air as Jack disgusts him, calling Barricada a hideous, worthless creature. Determined, the elf gathers energy around his halberd, begging for enough power to kill the insect before him, even as blood runs down his face from the overload. The more power he pulls, the more he craves. Jack mutters that the kid is a pain, though at least he has guts, so he'll get to see Jack fight seriously. When Must finally attacks, his halberd bends against Jack's fist like plastic. Jack triggers his Iron Blood Barricade, an overwhelming armor that crushes all hope. The elf still charges, but Jack breaks his weapon and drops him with a single punch. With the fight settled, Jack wonders how the others are doing just as Nazuna steps before Captain Hardy and declares herself the strongest of all. Hardy averts his gaze and pretends not to care, which only pushes Nazuna to prove her strength, eagerly testing herself at her master's order as she longs to face a legendary elf. Though cautious enough not to judge her youthful look, the commander still believes himself the pinnacle of his race, noting her high-grade magical gear and the effortless way she wields a massive sword, so he plans to test her power first. Impatient with the standoff, Nazuna strikes preemptively, her swing unleashing a violent gust that shatters the tower wall, snaps his blade, and rips open his chest. She only meant to show control over her weapon, but accidentally floors him and panics over whether she killed him, which is strictly forbidden. Ellie angrily scolds her, especially since the destroyed wall is tied to the tower's mana pool and had been heavily enchanted for Nazuna herself, forcing Ellie to spend huge mana to fix it. Ellie warns her to focus so she doesn't fail the mission. Nazuna apologizes in regret, and Hardy begins chanting a healing spell to stand again. Nazuna feels relieved and impressed that her opponent survived, while Ellie explains she enchanted the tower to stop elves from being announced at Vasco da Gama while inside. Nazuna vows to redeem herself and take her job seriously, and the elf apologizes, admitting he underestimated her and will not repeat that mistake. Ellie suspects the commander has a hidden trump card but trusts that Nazuna can endure it. Hardy then casts Silence, forming a soundless layer that drains Nazuna's positive effects into himself and strengthens his body, before using a hermit technique to rebuild his broken blade with an unseen, extended edge. He notices Nazuna has sheathed her weapon, and wonders why, assuming her tension proves her inexperience within Silence. In that instant, he is caught off guard by Nazuna's flawless charge, which hurls him violently into the tower wall. Pleased, Nazuna notes she did not break through the wall and says fighting barehanded helped her hold back, but Ellie scolds her anyway, reminding her that the rule is to cause no damage at all, not just avoid total destruction. Angry, the short girl snaps at the mage, and they argue briefly, dismissing the defeated enemy as a mere pest, until Dark steps in and asks the mage to be gentler, noting that Nazuna did manage to capture the commander. Annoyed, Ellie orders the girl to take out the trash, cuts the link, and tells her master she was only helping Mizuna control her power to prevent more trouble. Dark checks on the mage, who says she is fine aside from a slight tremble in her legs from the sudden mana use. The master then announces the guest's arrival, urges everyone to play their roles perfectly, and privately anticipates seeing Sasha again. Soon after, Sasha enters the throne room with her husband, calming her as the doors open by themselves, unsettling the elves, and Lord Dark greets them from the far end, making Mikhail assume he rules the tower, while Sasha struggles to remember who sits on the throne. When Dark greets her casually, Mikhail asks if she knows him, and she replies coldly that she has only seen him once before, snapping for him to be quiet, which Light finds amusing given her former affection before he removes his mask and leaves Sasha trembling. She demands to know where the boy's burns went and why he looks unchanged after 3 years, and Dark explains the wounds were an illusion and that he halted his aging to keep the trauma alive. Mikhail asks if this was the master Sasha was meant to kill, but her silence gives him the answer. Dark reveals he was trapped by teleportation and cast into the abyss, where revenge and the truth behind the tribal concord kept him alive, along with the girls beside him. He adds that his survival led to a revenge plan, with Sasha as the next target and the giant tower tied to her. Light asks if Sasha is enjoying the show, and as she trembles in fear, Mikhail laughs and declares his wife blessed, certain that killing the brat and delivering the tower's magic to the queen will elevate them at court. Sasha fears her lies will be exposed, but Mikhail assures her they can hide it, restoring her confidence as she insults Light and vows to burn him for revenge, prompting Light to rise from the throne, grip his staff, and order Ellie and Ayuki to stay back. As the boy steps down from the throne, the elves smile as if victory is certain. Light, meanwhile, decides it is the perfect time to give the couple a cruel wedding gift. Sasha mocks him, amused that a mere human dares act strong when she is already past level 500. Suddenly, an elf plays the Ocarina of Angels, summoning 3 magic circles that give birth to Phantom-class angels, elite weapons of the nobility. One angel rushes Light, evading a crushing star mace strike that shatters the floor, though its power still falls short. Light counters, forcing another angel to block with a divine shield, which he smashes through with raw strength, breaking its arms. A third angel heals the damage, revealing their roles as attacker, tank, and healer. Sasha watches in disbelief, knowing Light should be no higher than level 15. Light calmly says he trained over the years and reveals his status as level 9,999. Mikhail scoffs and tells Sasha not to be fooled, claiming such a level is impossible and must be a trick or magic item. Regaining confidence, Sasha orders the angels to attack, and all 3 charge. Light responds by trapping the attacker and tank with Dust, Press, and Shadow Dance, then fires a flame burst at the healer to stop their regeneration. He releases the Ice Sword and Fire Arrow cards to end the fight, but Sasha counters by playing her Ocarina, shielding her angels and summoning a new healer without using mana, which makes Dark uneasy for the first time in years, though he keeps attacking. He rushes the elf with his staff, but Mikhail shields her with a rare artifact that awakens and repels light, revealing itself as the shield of blessing and retribution, an elven treasure made to counter those who challenge the gods. When Mikhail raises it, the shield glows and boosts his allies, giving the angels the strength to break free from Dark's prison. Confident, Sasha declares she can endlessly summon angels without mana while Mikhail protects her, yet Light laughs as his followers grow tense. Mikhail calls it desperate laughter, but Light replies that true despair is what he will inflict next, ignoring Ellie's plea as he cancels the primary soul seal with code 9999 and activates the extra rare god Requiem Gunjir, unleashing power from the Dark Scepter, so overwhelming that it leaves Sasha and Mikhail speechless. The boy crosses the throne room toward the angels as Sasha commands them to attack, but when one swings a mace, it shatters without him moving, prompting a desperate prayer and Dark's dry comment about angels fearing death. Growing impatient, the tank lifts his shield and Light strikes his staff, erasing the enemies in an instant, forcing Sasha to play her ocarina again as the staff's overwhelming power strains Dark's hand and warns him it cannot be held long. When the song ends, she fuses the three angels into a towering archangel and orders a holy attack, declaring the holy dart as it forms above the boy's head and launches to finish the fight, only for Dark to disperse it effortlessly and mock her. Panicking, Sasha demands full power, unleashing three darts at once, yet the boy cancels them just as easily and nullifies every torrent of divine light while advancing, his calm strength intensifying with each step and leaving the elves increasingly tense.